All right, today we are digging into a story that is just fantastic. It's about a civilization that built some of the most advanced cities in the ancient world, only to completely vanish, leaving behind this incredible mystery. We're talking about the lost cities of the Indus. Our whole story really starts with this simple question, supposedly asked by some kids who are playing near old ruins. And it kind of gets to the very heart of archaeology, right? Why do we spend so much time looking for stories in things people left behind? Well, as we're about to see, sometimes an old, rundown house is actually a clue to an entire lost world. And that's pretty much exactly what happened about 150 years ago. Picture this. A bunch of engineers are building a new railway in what is now Pakistan, and they find this amazing source of ready-made bricks. They're perfectly baked, all the same size, just what they need. So they hauled away thousands and thousands of them with absolutely no idea they were literally dismantling the walls of an ancient city.
Yep, they had, completely by accident, found Harappa. It was the very first clue, the first time anyone in the modern world had stumbled upon a civilization that had been forgotten for almost 4,000 years. So let's start piecing this puzzle together.
So it took a little while, but archaeologists eventually went back to that site. And they realized pretty quickly that this wasn't just some random pile of bricks. Oh no. This was what was left of a massive, super sophisticated urban society that we now call the Harappan civilization.
Let's just pause for a second and let these timescales sink in. These cities started popping up almost 5,000 years ago, and it's really only in the last 80 years or so that we've even begun to understand the true scale of what was lost and what an incredible discovery this really is.
So, as archaeologists uncovered more of these cities, places like Mohenjo-daro, this stunning picture started to emerge. These were not just random clusters of buildings. They were master-planned metropolises. So what did that blueprint actually look like? Well, for starters, the city layouts show this super clear evidence of urban planning. Most of them were split into two main parts. You've got the citadel over to the west. It's smaller, but it's built up higher, probably for important public buildings. And then to the east, you have the much larger lower town, which is where most people actually lived. This kind of division tells you this was a highly organized society. They built with a plan.
And their engineering? It was just incredible. The bricks they made were so good they've lasted for thousands of years, and they were laid in this interlocking pattern to make the walls extra strong. But honestly, the most amazing feature has to be their sanitation system. They had covered drains, built in perfect straight lines with a gentle slope so the water would flow, and they even had inspection holes for cleaning. I mean, this level of planning was way more advanced than what a lot of cities in Europe had thousands of years later.
And get this, in the citadel of Mohenjo-daro, archaeologists found this really remarkable structure they call the Great Bath. It's this huge brick-lined tank made totally watertight with a layer of natural tar. It's surrounded by rooms, and the thinking is that it was probably used for important religious ceremonies, maybe ritual bathing. It's one of the few clues we have into their social and spiritual life. But a city is more than just its buildings and drains, right? It's about the people who lived there. So, who were they? Who were the rulers, the writers, and the craftspeople that brought these incredible places to life? Well, based on all the stuff they've dug up, we can start to piece together a picture of Harappan society. It looks like you had different groups. There was probably a small ruling class that planned all these massive construction projects. Then you had scribes who knew how to write. They're the ones who made these seals with a script that, tragically, we still haven't been able to decipher. And then you had the vast majority of people, the skilled craftspeople who made everything the city needed. And we're not just talking about simple crafts here. Look at this stuff. Faience. This wasn't something you just dig out of the ground. It was man-made. They would grind up sand or quartz, mix it with a gum, shape it, and then glaze it to get this beautiful shiny finish. This is basically early chemical engineering, all to create these beautiful luxury items.
Their work with stone was just as impressive. You had specialists who would cut this beautiful red carnelian stone, shape it, polish it, and then, get this, bore a tiny, perfect hole right through the center to make beads. They carved these unbelievably detailed animals onto stone seals and made perfectly balanced stone weights. This was absolutely the work of experts.
And it wasn't all just serious business for rulers and rituals. The discovery of little terracotta toys, things like tiny carts and animals, that shows us the kids played here. And get this, archaeologists found actual pieces of cotton cloth stuck to a silver vase. This is proof they were growing and weaving cotton over 4,000 years ago.
Now, to make all this amazing stuff, the Harappans needed raw materials, but a lot of them weren't available right there. And this is where the story gets even bigger, because it reveals that these cities were not isolated at all. They were major hubs in a huge ancient trading network.
I mean, just look at how far their economic reach was. They were getting copper from Rajasthan, and maybe even all the way across the sea from Oman. Tin, which you need to make bronze, was coming from modern-day Afghanistan and Iran. Gold traveled all the way up from Karnataka in southern India. This wasn't just some local culture. They were a major player on the ancient world stage, connected by really complex trade routes over both land and sea.
And that, of course, brings us to the biggest question of all. How could a civilization this advanced, this well-organized, and this connected just disappear? This is the final and still unsolved chapter of the Harappan story.
So the decline seems to have started around 3,900 years ago. After almost 1,000 years of urban life, these great cities started to empty out. But just look at that gap. It took another 1,400 years before new cities on a similar scale popped up in the subcontinent again. This was a true, widespread societal collapse.
The evidence in the dirt paints a really grim picture. In places like Mohenjo-daro, garbage started piling up in the streets. That amazing drainage system just broke down. People started building smaller, cruder houses, sometimes right on top of the old streets. Everything that defined their way of life, the writing, the seals, the standardized weights for trade, it was all falling apart.
Which leads us, of course, to the ultimate question. What on earth happened?
Well, scholars have a lot of theories, but no single easy answer. Maybe the rivers they depended on dried up or changed their course. Maybe they cut down too many trees to bake bricks and smelt copper. Some areas might have been hit by catastrophic floods. Or maybe the rulers just lost control and the whole complex system that held their society together just unraveled. The truth is, it was probably a combination of these things, a kind of perfect storm that brought a whole civilization to an end.
The story of the Harappans may have ended thousands of years ago, but that mystery is still with us. And as we study their incredible rise and their sudden, dramatic fall, you can't help but wonder, in the ruins of their great cities, which were built on these really complex systems of trade, water management, and social order, what clues about our own future might still be buried there with them?